trying to devise ways to be less intimidating, right? So, and that's a crazy existence to have to live.
It is.
But then with my hair, I decided that if my hair is what offends you, like it's not my height, it's not my ethnicity, it's not any of those things. Most men, if you're in politics, you're on Wall Street, you're in corporate America, you don't wear your hair naturally. 1997, I was in graduate school, and graduate school is pretty grungy as it is. So you're going to school. I was in school and working, so I was going to school. I barely had time for basic grooming, and so I said to myself, you know what? I am going to let my hair grow, and I won't cut it until I complete my studies. And then, at every turn, it was such a spiritual undertaking that I let it remain, because there was it's such a journey. Right? Sometimes you want to cut it, it won't look right, it won't style right, and you want to cut, but you got to stay committed. And so this is since 1997, while I was in graduate school, as a commitment to finishing my studies and making this like kind of a central theme and or point for me graduating. And then I wound up, it became a spiritual journey for me. So my hair's been like this since 1997. Because at the same time that I was being committed to this educational process, I had to be, a lot of people don't understand that natural hair, in some instances, is harder to maintain than if you have a processed hairstyle, right? It's just because it's natural doesn't mean it's easy. So having to be committed to that, and it was synonymous with me being committed. So it literally taught me commitment. It taught me patience. It taught me, to be more in tune with myself and who I am in relationship to the planet. And I would never have guessed that hair, or just growing my hair naturally, could have had that profound effect on everything I did after that. And so because it was a spiritual journey, I think I got less flack for being in very prominent places with my natural hair, because it became synonymous with me. That's what makes me know that it was actually a more of a spiritual process. People weren't shocked when I showed up. People weren't, well, I guess they had to choose between being shocked over my height or my hair. And in most instances, it would definitely be my height. But it really became synonymous with commitment and patience and all of those things that are necessary to be a man and be successful in this society. Directly, I can correlate and associate it to growing out my hair. I would agree with you totally. It reminds me though of going back to plant-based eating and how difficult they make that, right? So I started, plant-based eating, and it's more expensive, it's less accessible, because processed foods in this country are $1 billion industry. So I would agree with you 100%. But again, that's why this also becomes spiritual to me, because that whole process around here and what you just mentioned, synonymous with plant-based eating, all of that returning back to our culture as people of color, is harder to do in capitalist societies, because there's not, they've pumped us full of all kinds of preservatives and additives and all of those kinds of things. Well, trying to occupy these spaces when the hair hadn't grown to a level that you can actually style it, and not wanting to go in those spaces and not be taken seriously or be looking crazy and deranged, was a real challenge. Like when your locks, and you can probably attest to this, and anybody who started this process, there's a period where they are just unmanageable. They're doing whatever they want to do, and you wake up in the morning and you can put some product in it, but really you are not in control. That's another thing I learned, that sometimes there are situations that I don't control and I need to lean into it and embrace it. That's what happened with my hair. Those challenges, you wake up, you look in the mirror, you're frustrated, you're aggravated, you have on a very expensive suit, and you're going to make a pitch and or a plea for something on behalf of your community, and your hair's not behaving the way that you had anticipated it would, and it's not giving off the vibes of being taken serious. I suffered a lot of that in the early period. Unfortunately, Hollywood hasn't been kind to us. So I think if you're going for a part, there are very few parts set aside for men in particular with locks that aren't drug dealers and or gang members. Like if you just look across the spectrum, there aren't many leading men from our community in Hollywood that are depicted positively. So if that's what you're ingesting every single day from a Hollywood perspective or from a television perspective, it's hard to separate that from your perception. Your perception now becomes, as soon as you see me with my skin color and my hair, your first ideas and perceptions is that I must be doing something illegal or operating outside the confines of leadership or those kinds of things. So I understand where it comes from. I'm not angry. I just wish that the world would be more consistent and would conspire through media, through television. So the only black folks that you see on media, in music, are either rappers who are saying some things that are, damaging in some regard to our community, or actual criminals seem to be the only ones depicted as wearing natural hair as black men.
You mean locks, right?
I mean locks in this society. So no leading men who have families and who are husbands on television or in the movies. Only those who are living outside of normal society are depicted in our media and in our music, unfortunately. I mean, I guess it's misguided advice. He thinks he's giving, good advice. If you want to succeed in particular industries, don't wear your hair naturally, which is stupid. In those spaces, I wanted to be natural and be in a natural state, but also be conservative. Some of those spaces are incredibly conservative, whether it's in the ecumenical community, going in and out of churches, mosques, and synagogues, they expect for you to look a particular way, or whether it's in the halls of justice and or government, or if it's on Wall Street. They expect it, and they accepted the fact that I went the extra mile by putting it in as conservative as all of this hair could possibly be. Doris was always tasked with giving me a style that wasn't in your face per se. And so it was this little secret I got to have when I went into these spaces and conversed in these spaces that, I got my culture more than you'll ever imagine. You may not know it. So it actually was a game that I played with myself, that I could enter into these spaces, have my natural hair, and be conservative at the same time. It was the ultimate or the epitome of dualism. So I could be there representing myself and my blackness and my culture while still being able to be an expert on whatever topic I was tasked with, leading communities, all of those kinds of things in a non-traditional way. So it was definitely intentional. Doris and I would fight and sometimes struggle on getting it, because she wanted this all the time, right? She wanted it out, she wanted it to be natural. And I was always saying, no, Doris, I gotta go into these spaces. I'm not cutting it, but I will be cognizant of where I am and what it out, and me swinging it, like out like this and swinging it in people's faces. It's very hard for you to focus on whatever topic that I'm trying to convey. So I would do that. We have the most amount of churches per capita are in Bed-Stuy, and you know that people who are in church are very conservative. So I had pastors and bishops all say, we would really prefer if you would, if you would consider cutting your hair.
Really, pastors?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So Bed-Stuy is not without its dualism. I remember Michelle having the twins in church, right? We're in church now, having the twins there, and usher asking her to step outside so she could breastfeed because it was inappropriate for her to breastfeed in the sanctuary.
Wow. Okay.
So you shouldn't be surprised that they would say something or have conditions around my hair.
Oh, yeah. That's clear.
Look at the pulpits across the country. How many lead head beggar church pastors do you see with locks?
None. I have not.
Exactly. No, I think I'm right where God has planned for me. And I think that compromising a look or changing that would not be helpful for who I am and how I intend to be seen in the world. So that was not an option for me. I don't think that I will be less successful. I think that what God has planned for me, I will fulfill, and that's the end of that. I can't show up any different. Like I said, I can't show up any less black. I can't show up any shorter than I am. So this is my package. My package consists of incredible height and incredible hair. Well, I'm a preacher's kid. I came to be able to represent a community where my father, before me, represented that community from a clergy standpoint. He was the pastor of Mount Calvary Baptist Church. Well, the service portion of that, servant leadership, as a basis for everything that I do, it's not my idea. That idea was given to me as a mandate from my parents, who served in the community, left their blood, sweat, and tears from an ecumenical perspective and from a religious perspective. We joke that the pulpit was not my calling, thank God, and thank God for everyone else. But to serve publicly, I was acutely aware that that was something that I was kind of destined to do. I'm spending a lot more time with my kids, attending their events, and not showing up like a politician, which my kids are very appreciative of, just showing up as a dad. But I did start my own business, which is a lobbying and consulting firm, primarily working with Black small business and making sure that they can, become a part of the American dream from a perspective of capitalism, making sure they're included in all new developments across the city. It's funny because in this city of great diversity and Black power, politically and ecumenically and business-wise, there's still no building in the confines of New York City and New York State that has been built primarily by Black hands, not that were enslaved hands. Mm-hmm. So we have yet to rise to the level of participating in this economic juggernaut in this city and in this state, which is my goal, to see to it that on major projects and developments going forward, that they can be built and they can earn the same as other ethnicities have in building this great city. But to date, we don't have that. And so I concentrate on building capacity within small businesses, in developers, making sure that they can be not subcontractors all the time, but actually can be prime contractors. That's kind of my mission now, is to help us as a community be economic drivers and build wealth within our communities, as we've done some other places in the country. It's amazing that New York, we don't have that kind of as a platform like other cities and states have. I've been able to do the same work outside of the office. I was the chair of housing and buildings and the chair of small business. And my company and the clients that I have allow me to continue that work. So I don't miss it from a standpoint of I actually can make my own hours now. And those hours don't constitute 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is, as a political figure, people have a reasonable expectation that you don't take time off. And if they see you in a supermarket, they can ask the same questions that they would if they came to your office. I don't have that as a mandate anymore, but people still call me because they don't even know who the new council member is, unfortunately, yet. The only thing I would add is that this was incredibly intentional, right? So I knew what I was doing. I knew what the impact that I knew what the outcomes that I wanted to see. Because at any given time, I could have succumbed to the pressure of my own community and its desire for me as a leader, and outside communities and the ability to earn more as a father and as a husband. So I left the house every day understanding what the assignment. I think that there were certain leadership in the Christian leadership that said, "Hey, man, you should. We want to be supportive, but you really should. If you want to go far, you really should cut your hair." Like they even went as far to say, and I won't name the person, but there's one person who is in a tremendous leadership role in the ecumenical community in Bed-Stuy, who actually said to me, "You are," in his opinion, he was like, "You're a handsome man. You dress very nicely. The one knock is your hair." And I was kind of shocked that he would say that. Like, so to start out with some level of a compliment and then to have that giant negative. And I think most people though didn't approach me because it wasn't like I was starting. Like you could tell I'm definitely committed to this process with 4 feet of hair. You know, so most people in their right mind are not going to overtly say that, except this one pastor. It was almost as if he believed religiously that was against the teachings of God. And I'm
Wow.
like, you know, Jesus borderline had locks. Like, really, like if you look deeply at not the pictures that we see, but the way he's described in the Bible, I'm you know, hair of wool. I'm assuming that he wasn't combing through that, and there may be a lock or two in there. And then if you do the research to look around the country, even in places like China, where there were indigenous Chinese that were of color who had locks. So there's no place else on the face of the earth where locks did not exist, even as even as a status symbol. You know, and in some indigenous countries, it is a status symbol. If you have this much hair and you wear it in a crown, it's actually, they refer to it as a crown. So in the US, we are behind in a lot. And I can say that because I had the pleasure of living abroad for many years. And
Where did you live?
I lived in Israel, Turkey, France, Spain, and Colombia. So I got to see how far we are behind sometimes in our thinking. Even though I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, I got to be clear on that. I love America and I love the opportunities that it avails me. But there were some other freer thinking places that I lived in where my hair wasn't an issue. They were interested in my thoughts, ideas, values, you know, what kind of character I possessed over how I looked. There's literally nothing about this process that I would have changed or that I would change. If I could go back and start all over again in '97, I would do the exact same thing. It has been one of my biggest attributes, has been my hair. Its connection to my culture. And when I say my culture, I mean my culture around the world. I've learned so much about the importance of hair, what it meant. So I wouldn't, there's no part of this process. I wouldn't go back and change so that I could have more money or so that I could be in a different, maybe more prominent position. I wouldn't, there's literally no day that I wish I hadn't done this. The only thing I wish is that I wouldn't have cut it twice, because then it would be as long as I'd like for it to be right now.
Why did you cut it?
There were times that I was either going through something or whatever, and people said, you know, a lot of your energy relies on your hair, and maybe as a commitment, you should just trim it. Right? So it's not just that you wake up and you like your hair. No,
Not just get up and
no, man. If you want it to be healthy, there's a regimen and or a treatment that's necessary, and that's only synonymous to your particular hair, right? So my hair is such that I have some scalp irritations. So she probably does something for me that she doesn't do for everyone else, because I need that. Yeah. So meaning, that's what I mean when I say it's not easy to maintain it and for it to be healthy. It may be a little bit more difficult. If I was just going to get a fade every day, right, or every week, that's a little bit easier a process.
Sure.
But I don't like things easy anyway. So as you can tell by my life, I don't particularly subscribe to the easy route. But this is the opposite of easy maintenance. I love when she wraps it 3 times and then wraps around it. One, makes it look so incredibly healthy and thick, and it's a protective style to some degree. So the weight isn't like focused on the roots as much. And I like it because it also allows me, it makes people do a double take, because they go, wait a second, isn't that the guy who represented that style? But I don't remember his hair being out like that. Yeah. So I enjoy that style. So the funny thing is, there's another client who I referred here, who's a very good friend of mine, who is very similar in features. He's like a mini me, except he's older than me. So he came here, saw Doris, got the barrel rolls, And then I see him at an event and we look like twins. And I was like, Doris, don't ever do his hair like that again. She's like, Robert, that's not your exclusive style. Because when she did it for me, that was the first time I had ever seen it.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted exclusivity, but unfortunately I couldn't get exclusivity. I talked to him though. I was like, dude, you can't go there anymore if you're gonna do the exact same style as mine. We literally look like twins.